You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers.
Oh, well, I'm Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect and discuss horror films, both old and new. And this year we've been kind of delving into the films or the best of films throughout this current decade. And we're up to 2017, so just a couple of years ago. And we posted out a handful of films that we felt would top that list. And asked you, the podcast listeners and our social support followers out there, to vote on who they thought would be the best movie of 2017. And you guys came back with It, which is kind of interesting, particularly because it had a lot of fans around the original 1990 kind of Tim Curry miniseries. And I know there was a few kind of naysayers when this first came out. But I know that it had a huge social kind of following the preamble stuff before it came out. So I'm wondering whether some of that enthusiasm was just because of clever marketing. But we will discuss that as we go into it. Before we kind of do so, I'll introduce myself. I'm the host for the podcast sessions. My name is Saul Muerte. And joining me for the podcast this time round is Anthony Big Cheesy. Welcome aboard, Ant.
Hey, it. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves it.
This is going to be.
I like how you went. You can tell it's like people can't see his face, but so was like, and the winner was it. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And did you read, audience? Did you hear between the lines when he was like, yeah, some people liked the original version, but apparently clever marketing pushed this one to the final line.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm gonna have to preface this record as well, because I remember my gut reaction coming out of watching this movie was a little bit underwhelmed. I felt like it was an awesome coming of age story with the kids. I think the kids were fantastic in it. The scare factor and the Pennywise factor was lacking for me, and I was really hoping for something else, and it didn't happen. Obviously, it must have clicked with the guys out there that voted, because it became number one. But I guess that's where you're coming from, isn't it? There, and because you knew my reaction at the time, because you were with me.
I was with you.
Yeah.
We all were with you.
Yeah.
Actually, just to preface it too, the actual we said we're going to talk about this, so we'll talk about
it. Yeah, let's do it.
Place it in context of the night. I don't think any film where the entire surgeons team, the staff, the accountant, the lawyer, like all of us, we wanted to see this film, and Saul got tickets for all of us. Yep. We had to go in 2 carloads, seriously. And I said to Saul, "Okay, you can come with me, and because we're the fun car." And you're like, "Okay, cool." And when I say fun car, we're the car that's going to be 10 minutes late. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
because I got held up at work. Yeah. So the first half of the group got there, and they're like, "Where the hell are you guys?" We're like, "We're trying to get there." And that was you, me, and Mez. I think he was.
Mez, yeah.
But Miles is already there, and Nick was already there, and the Greer was already there. Pabs.
We've had, and a couple of our old writers were there as well. So with Bree and so it's there was. You
were tense. I was tense. You were tense before we got in. We literally got in. As soon as we sat down, we did the whole thing. Sorry. Moving across in the dark, stepping on people's toes, sit down just to see Pennywise bite the arm off the kid. So we're like, oh, okay. So we missed that whole preamble.
So we did miss that whole big chunk, and that's, I guess that was the thing. I was hoping to try and watch this again prior to record, because I normally do so. And I've been really struggling to get a copy of it without paying for it.
There's a reason. He's not a cheap ass. There's a reason for that.
No, that's right. Because I want to get the double. I want to get the 2 back to back. I don't want to get separate DVDs or Blu-rays of it. I want to get like an edition of it. So, and there is rumors that Andy Machete, who's the director of this film, is actually
doing a machete cut.
he's going to do a machete cut. Yeah. And he's combining the two together. So that would be awesome. And that's what I want to hang out for. So it's not me being a stingy tight ass guy. So I've just been kind of hanging out for that to happen. So that says a lot, though, doesn't it? In the sense that, yes, I didn't think it was a cracking movie, but I'm still willing to kind of hang out for it and pay money for it.
Have you seen it?
So go on. Sorry.
Yeah, go. Now, my thing about me, here's the thing. Like, there's a podcast from that year where we all sat, you, me, Richard and Greer sat and did the DVD commentary.
Yeah, and Richard
version of that, and the whole thing is literally marked, from my point of view, of the three of you talking and me just going, huh? Because I wasn't a fan. In the sense I didn't read the book.
Yeah,
I saw the original 90s miniseries once years ago. I forgot all about it. Liked it. I forgot all about it. So I didn't know who was who. And when you got a cast of 7 people times 2. It's just, I mean, you guys were saying with Billy this and Ricky that and I don't know who's who, what. And so I literally walked out and had some lunch and came back. So I didn't have the invested passion that you guys had. This is your film for various different reasons. And that was the one overriding thing I remember coming out of that film was we gave a detailed analysis of it, as you do for your nerds. And you guys were really disappointed. That was the thing I came away.
Yeah. I think that was a general consensus that, like, there was obviously with Greer and Richard, because we were the 3 plus you that did that. But I mentioned us 3 because we were the kind of real hardcore fans of it as a story, and Pennywise as a concept, and also the miniseries had a huge impact on us when we were kids. And you see, I reread the book too prior to this coming out as well, because I really wanted to kind of delve back into the world of Derry and Pennywise and all the folklore that comes with it. And I realized that there was potential there. That's why I think I was amped, because I was like, there's potential to really go somewhere with this and make it really dark and disturbing. And the result of it is a fun movie, but it doesn't go dark. It doesn't go deep enough. Like Pennywise is meant to tap into our darkest fears and scare the shit out of us and feed off that energy to consume its power and energy, essentially. And I never got that. But I wonder, like, whether that's because were we, as in you, myself, and Maz, impacted by the fact that we missed the tension build up at the beginning of that film? I don't know.
I don't know. Because we've all seen it now. Yeah.
Time away and had the same opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to.
What did Mez think of it? I can't remember.
I don't know. She went off halfway through, got some to eat, and came back again. So I don't know.
She took off, didn't she?
Yeah, she kind of was saying, "I'm really, really hungry. I don't know. Can I get out? Can I duck out?" And I went, "Yeah, just do it." Like, because I knew the story, I kind of went to at one point. I went, "Yeah, you could probably go now. I don't think much is going to happen."
And did she not come back?
She never came back. Yeah, apparently.
Actually, have you spoken to her since then?
No, she hasn't actually come back.
Oh, that was my overriding feelings. You guys were very disappointed with it.
Yeah.
I think it is. I mean, I know a lot more about it now. I still haven't read the book, but at least I can name all the 7 characters. I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
But I think, again, we've said this before with something else. Would this have been better as a Netflix series? Therefore, you can have time to really explore all the nooks and crannies that you have to lose in the book. And I say that too, knowing that there's a Stranger Things connection with that, because that's what the original Stranger Things guys wanted to do, right? Is that
that's right. Yeah,
they couldn't get the rights to it, so they're like, well, let's make our own science fiction horror based in the 80s, and they did. And it's called Stranger Things, and nobody's ever heard of it. So
it's out the wing. That's right. And I guess, look, for me, the best example of somebody taking a novel and creating a modern spin on it is The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes. Can't wait for the sequel to that.
Obviously a 10-part kind of piece. And so to answer your question, I could totally see that happening if it was done in a similar fashion, where it's the story told across 10 parts. or 12 for that matter, if it needs that kind of extra push out. I mean, here's the other thing too. Like those that know the book and even the miniseries and this film know that the strongest element of it is the story with the kids and the impact it has on the kids. And we see the majority of that in this first part. So yes, I feel like that's potentially why it will resonate. And we've since had the follow-up part that's come out. And it's a great movie again, but to me, a bit popcorn kind of material. But it does the marks. I still enjoyed it. Didn't find it scary. So I would be interested to see the two side by side. But I guess my point is that this one still feels like the stronger of the two films, despite that. And I think that's because of the kid element. You know, like it just taps into that kind of Anyway, and I guess we'll talk about that as we nut through the narrative a little bit. But before we get to that, I just want to kind of quickly, go through the actual top 10 list that we had out there for the guys to vote. Obviously, it was in there. We had, and some of them are a bit weaker than the others, admittedly. But we had. It
was a strong year.
It was a strong year. Yeah, we had 47 meters down, which was.
I like that.
Submerged shark.
Did you like that?
It was enjoyable.
I enjoyed it. I was thinking, Mandy Moore, whatever, hammer for it. But I was tense. I was like, shit. As you do with a shark film.
I quite like the director, Johannes Roberts, who was behind the film F, I want to say it was. But he also did the recent Strangers sequel as well. But I find his movies are often enjoyable. You know, so
it was a good film, and
speak him out. And the sequel's coming out,
Uncaged.
Uncaged.
It wasn't 48 meters down; it was 47 meters down. Uncaged.
Yeah. So that's literally coming out within like a week of us doing this podcast record. So it'd be interesting to see that come out as well. And then also we had Annabelle Creation, which did you join me on the screening for that one? I think.
We did the podcast on that. We did this screening. That's the one set in Queensland. Well, it's Queensland, really.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed this one, I have to say. And I think...
considering the other Annabelle film was shit, we were like, this actually is a next level step up. It's not bad. Yeah.
So I think this was from the Lights Out director as well, which kind of...
which we don't like that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't like that one. Yeah. So much. We also got we got Get Out, which I actually thought was going to be the one that would.
I thought that might, because that's very clever film and just really smart storytelling and really well done. And
I really love it too.
Fresh take.
Yeah, I really love it too, and I would. It's one of my favourite films of recent years. Having said that, I know there are some naysayers out there who really don't like it. And really bag it out. Yeah, I do. There's a lot of
don't like it.
Socials, just following on social, not necessarily the surgeons guys, the people that follow surgeons, but across a lot of, because I follow a lot of the horror kind of social sites and tap in with the community and such like. But I've seen a lot of people kind of bag it out, which was interesting. So because of that, I was kind of like, maybe it's not as widely received as I first thought it was. And then we get Happy Death Day, and actually
I only caught up with that recently. I really enjoyed it. I actually kind of, you know what, I know, because here's the thing, a lot of your reaction and Miles' reaction is very common, is that but the second one is really better. Finally saw the second one the other day. I actually still enjoyed the first one more.
Okay.
In the sense that you enjoyed Back to the Future 1 more than you enjoyed Back to the Future 2.
Right.
Because I found the second one was trying too much. It was just a bit frantic. It was still enjoyable. Yeah. Like her throwing herself out of the plane and flipping the bird to the camera before smashing into the ground.
Yeah.
In the second sequel is really funny.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed the first one, mainly because I remember such low expectations. And halfway through, I noticed my wife was still watching.
Yeah.
But she wasn't on her iPad playing Candy Crush. She was like, this is actually,
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that.
I was going to say it's again, it was an enjoyable film. I got frustrated with the continuity errors, and so that threw me. So whereas Back to the Future was pretty smart with that stuff, I felt like it could have played a bit more because things didn't quite marry up properly time wise.
In terms of her timing, her walking, because she rushes through the courtyard, and others she walks, and therefore they shouldn't time up. Is that what you're
exactly?
about?
Yeah, and I know I'm being niggly with it, but like that to me, all it would need is just to kind of make it a bit cleverer, and it would have worked more. So there's a few things there that kind of frustrated, but I did enjoy it. So it's not like I'm bagging it out. Like I didn't connect with it as greatly as other people did. Speaking of crap movies, there was also Jigsaw in there, which was the
I don't watch that stuff.
Follow on Saw movie, which
they've lost.
Actually had a few people voting for that one as well. We had Raw in there, which was the French kind of cannibal coming of age film, which I absolutely adore, but I know people out there don't.
Did Miles like it? It sounds like something Miles would be into.
I have to have a chat with Miles. I'm not actually sure. We may have had that conversation, but I can't recall. But I really loved it. I thought it was a great flick, and had a lot of smarts. We also had Split in there, which was the
that's good.
Lion one.
Best twisty ending at the end.
Yeah, that's cool.
Still haven't seen Glass yet. I've got to see Glass.
Yeah. It's not as good, but yeah, it's part of the trilogy, so it's worth watching. We had The Black Coat's Daughter, which was also called February. Another.
I can't get through that. It's so. I know you like it. Yeah, no, you loved it, but I was like,
Oz Perkins directed it. Very cool. I thought my only kind of yes, it lags and draws a bit, but the other, I guess, the bit I was let down by the ending. The ending I thought was a bit predictable with that one, and then the last one was The Girl with All the Gifts, which I've still not seen.
Was that the zombie one, which is and Helen Mirren did it?
No, I haven't seen it.
I saw that. I saw the movies. I don't know how. I think it was one of the things where I walked past the cinema and I'm like, I got a couple of hours.
I thought you saw it in the UK, didn't you? Didn't you see it in the UK with with that really cool surround system?
Maybe I did. I don't know. If I did, I have to check the wife, because I would have seen it with her, and she'll tell me. It is. It's fine. It's got I think Rose Byrne is in it too. On Australian, some Australian actress.
I know.
It's fine. Yeah,
I know Paddy Considine was in it. So.
Oh yeah.
And I really like him. So, but yeah, I've still yet to watch that one, which is on my to-do list. Cool. All right. So that kind of rounds out the 10, and as I said, it was the overall winner. So let's take a look at it by diving into the plot narrative as we usually do. What was I guess before we do that, did you have much expectations going in, or were you kind of whistling in the wind a little bit?
I wanted to go in as blank as possible, because I couldn't follow the miniseries when we watched it for that live podcast before. Yeah, and so I was treating this as my launching in point to get into it fresh and clean and get right into it. And I came away thinking, they got lucky with 7 kids. Like, getting one kid actor who's good enough to hold a film together, feature film, is really tough. To get 7 is next to impossible, and they did that. They got all 7 of them. The least of them was good. The best of them was great. Yeah. And so I thought, well, that's the film. It's the 7 of them. Yeah. Because I've done it all about the kids. That's the film. So I was thinking, this is really cool. I get it. Like, there's no moment where I was shitting myself and going, this is scary. You're just admiring Pennywise for the special effects that they've done to him. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what's the story? What's his deal? Blah blah blah. Because all the set pieces, they have to scare each 7 kid individually at the beginning, and say, okay, it wasn't so much what's scary, what's the interesting scenario that this kid has got that's different. There's some little jump scares a little bit, but it wasn't like, oh my god, no. Yeah. There's one special effects shot with Pennywise coming out of a refrigerator, which I thought was really impressive. Yeah. That whole scene, that's the whole scene in the house, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that was my favourite moment. Well, not just that bit where he comes out, but that whole sequence was actually my favourite moment of the whole film. I really enjoyed that bit. Yeah. Yeah, but it is it's very effects laden. It's so funny because we are so used to watching horror, as we told amongst young filmmakers. Horror is very easy to do, and that's why a lot of filmmakers, when they start out, try to do horror. We of course caveat that expression with horror is very easy to do, very hard to get right. Yeah. But the thing is, the majority of horror films, even when we're talking Hollywood feature films, tend to be low rent or low budget. The blockbuster films, which tend to be on the sci-fi spectrum, i.e. Marvel movies. So when you have a horror film that has a blockbuster budget to it, it's kind of odd. Because then you see money on the screen, you think, is that detracting from the craft of just scaring people?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, and I think, I kind of get that. I kind of think for you guys, it was like so much going on visually. Maybe it was a little too much. I don't know. My thing with Pennywise was Tim Curry. I have chlorophobia. Is it? A little bit of clown phobia.
Yeah, I know.
A little bit, because I had a clown doll as a boy growing up, and I fucking hated it. And the scene in Poltergeist with the clown was just brilliant because it just tapped into all that.
Yeah.
And it made me realize I'm not alone. Everybody else hates clowns too. And Tim Curry, when I did see the original one, I remember seeing the cover of the VHS copies for years before having the courage to rent that video.
Yeah.
Because it's a clown, right?
Yeah.
And he gets it. He really nailed the fact that a clown is very disturbing.
Yeah.
And he just acts like a clown. Hi, kids. And he's just like, he's Krusty. Like, if you saw Krusty in real life,
yeah.
disturbing. He's the clown serial killer, the real life one who dressed as a clown. Gacy. Right?
Gacy. Yeah, it was Gacy.
You look at him and he just looks creepy.
Yeah.
And Curry tapped into the creepy, unsettling aspect. Where straight away, Pennywise in this film, there's blood coming out of his mouth. His head isn't shaped right. He's got yellow eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and he's got teeth the size of razors. So straight off the bat, you're like, okay, that's not a safe thing to go anywhere near.
Yes.
You're telegraphing you're an alien killer clown.
Yeah.
Whereas the beauty of Curry's performance, he's just a creepy dude.
Yeah.
And you just have no extent of how creepy he is until you get close.
Yeah.
Or how dangerous he is, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that was it. Like, it was a big budget film, but I enjoy it. I enjoy, like, I'm currently in the middle of the Marvel era where big effect extravaganzas on screen. So so I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it, but yeah, is it a horror film in the sense that it scared me? No,
cool. Well, not cool, but I get it.
So that was my
No, sweet. That's sweet. All right, I mean, we, as we said, we missed the kind of the setup for the beginning, but it's for the purpose of talking about it on the podcast, we introduced to Bill and his younger brother Georgie. Bill says he's sick, can't go out and play in the rain. So Georgie goes to sail the sailboat on his own in the drains along the curbs. And now you see this in the trailer anyway. Like, it's pretty much
the trailer scene. Yes, I think some movies just take a chunk of the movie into the trailer.
And actually, I noticed. I noticed that happened with the Curse of La Llorona, or however you pronounce it. A very similar thing. And it was probably the best bit of that movie. And so what was I saying? So we had that whole bit where Georgie's following the boat, but it goes down the drain as he goes.
There's a bit in that film they did play it for comedy where he literally ducks under one of these barriers, these traffic barriers. Then he hits the second one. But if you listen to the sound design, it's the classic like it's played for comedy. Like you really listen to it, you're like, okay. Because it wouldn't sound like that in real life, but they go doing. And then the boat goes down this drain, which is fuck off huge. Are all drains this big in the United States? In which case, they must lose a lot of kids. Yeah,
that's pretty much how they go.
It's a massive drain.
It is huge. I think they are that big, though, aren't they? I don't know.
Every time I've been there, I haven't looked at the drains. So.
No, I haven't either. Although I must admit, I did look at the sewer caps in New York because of they were steaming at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just looking at it transfixed, going, yeah. Anyway,
you do. It's one of those things because that's it. I tell my wife, because she's English, she lives at a movie, because being Australian, we see a lot of English and American cinema and TV. So you sit there, you think, green money, I live in a movie, it's fucking awesome. Or, in New York, you see a steaming, like manhole cover, you're like, fuck yeah. I could be in fame. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah. So that was me for a good few hours.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. What?
It's like the first time you see a squirrel. Squirrel.
So we get Georgie goes to investigate that with the drain, and he sees a clown down there who introduces himself as Pennywise.
Pennywise, the dancing clown.
And then
so again, that to me, that scene especially is if you play him like a genuinely lost clown.
Yeah.
That would make a kid. I mean, he tries to do it a little bit in the second film. No spoilers, but you've probably seen the second film. But there's a girl who's got a birthmark on her cheek.
Yes.
And he said, I can get rid of that birthmark because I know what it feels like to be scarred.
Yes.
He's still quite fucking scary.
Yeah, that is a bit there too. Yeah.
If you honestly played it as I want to be your friend, I'm lost too, then suddenly that's a creep factor because there's a little bit of this could easily happen in real life. You know? Yeah, element to it. And I think same with Georgie here. He's very the deep voice. Yeah. Like if he and Richard would no doubt do this better because
I bet you he could. Yeah,
he's very riveted by he really analysed Pennywise's performance. But
he did. Yeah.
You could see Richard playing Pennywise if there was a scene. Yeah, but yeah, that's it. If he just played it as a relatively straight, as I'm down here, I'm stuck. Can you help me?
Yeah.
It would make it more believable that fucking Georgie would stick his hand in the bloody grate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. There was a time just on that too. Like the movie itself went through a few transitions before it finally got made, and one of them was where it had director Cary Fukunaga attached to it, and he was behind the first was it the first oh my god, True Detective series. He was the director behind that. And he's got a very cool look and style to his work, and so I was kind of intrigued about what he was going to do. But importantly, on the on the Pennywise front is that Will Poulter was going to be playing him, and he apparently auditioned, and he blew the director away with the audition. I mean, he's kind of been in a lot of things. You just kind of Google him and you kind of recognize his face. Yeah. More recently, he was in Midsummer, from what I've seen, and he was the kind of full character in that. He's always very good in what I've seen him in. So it would have been kind of interesting to see him go dark, I think. But there you go. So back to the story. So we have Pennywise in the sewer, and he knows the whole bit. Entices Georgie in, and he bites his arm off essentially, and then drags him into the sewer.
Which is brave, to kill a kid. So I think you don't kill animals, you don't kill kids. And we talked about this with the John Carpenter film, the Precinct 13 film.
Yes,
where Kim Richards gets a bullet right through his chest, and bang, she's dead.
Yeah.
So same thing. You've just torn a kid's arm off.
Yeah.
In the first few minutes of the film, I remember the guy sitting next to me going, who's not a horror fan. I think this is very important. The guy next to me in the film who wasn't a horror fan just goes, "Oh, fuck me." It's full on, right? And then he literally drags a kid. Probably really roughly through the grate, and you can tell what left that Georgie was dying, but he probably had a couple of broken bones before he was pulled right down that grate. So it's visceral, it's violent, it's full on. So it sets everybody on edge, which is what a lot of horror films tend to leave one of the biggest scares right at the beginning of the film. Because then it makes you tense for the rest of the film until you hit him with the coup de grace. Jaws is a great example of that. That kill at the beginning is full on, and so you're tense until the next big reveal, which is the guy in the boat. So look, it makes you go, okay, that's tense. They're willing to kill a kid, so what else is going to happen? So boom.
Yeah, that's it. So then we cut. The story itself picks up that's the following year, so the summer of the following year.
End of summer, so basically, this year.
And so, and we kind of pick up with Bill again, and the brother, and he's with his friends Richie and Eddie and Stan. And they kind of come across this bully character called Henry Bowers and his gang, so they have a kind of bit of an altercation with him. And Henry's character, the bully character, is really quite integral to the whole story as well. So there's a period, which I'm jumping ahead, but the bit towards the end, it alludes to the fact that he's been killed off.
yes,
really got me.
And you're like, how the hell did they get out of that one? And they do that.
They kind of do, but you kind of go, that's bullshit. He would never have survived that fucking fall. But there you go. But they do. They get around it. Anyway.
Well, it's a bit like one of those. It was almost felt like, when you split a TV show into two parts, but a new story, new writer and new director take up the second part.
Yes.
And it's almost like the writer and director of the first part goes, let's fuck over the second team by killing off a character and let them come up with a bullshit way to bring him back to life.
Yeah.
And it felt like that. But, so you got, the Henry Bowles picking on the kids, and he's a good bully. Like,
Yeah, he is.
and he says, you had a free pass because of your brother, but that's over. And so you get the sense that, come summertime that, if they come across these kids, because it's a small town, that these kids are going to kick the shit out of them.
Yep.
Also, you get to meet the big fatty Boomba kid. What's his name? Ben at this point. Young Ben.
Boomba. Yeah.
Fatty Boomba kid. So I don't know their names. And then you meet Beverly too.
We do, but just on that, like, so the Ben character is like, obviously he becomes a target for the Bowers gang, which is why he ends up meeting the others, because they are building that dam down in the wastelands area, which they call Barrens. And this is really not just in the book, but every instance or telling of this story. This is a really important scene, because it's kind of where essentially they come together for the first time as the losers group, minus Mike, thank you. So the Ben's kind of getting chased after by. Does he do the whole bit where he's trying to write on his stomach as well?
Well, no. Well, originally he meets Beverly. So Beverly gets shit dumped all over in a bathroom stall. But these bully girls who
that's right,
who call her a slut because she has a reputation amongst the school, of having sex at a very young age, and so she comes out of school, the back of school. Ben's in the back of the school because he's trying to avoid the bullies.
That's right.
They meet. She takes pity on him. She signs his yearbook. The only person to sign his yearbook because he's new. He doesn't have any friends. He's suddenly instantly falls in love.
Yes.
Nice nod that he's a big fan of New Kids on the Block. So it's something that very much places it in the 80s and gives it a very 80s spin, because the original book, the kids were in the 50s, weren't they? Yeah,
this is, we didn't mention that, do we? Because obviously they've done a time jump to make it obviously current, so that when the kids are older, it's 2017, not in the 80s, which is the original film, and obviously when they were kids was in the 50s. So they've done that jump.
Yeah. And New Kids on the Block was a great way of just suddenly really make it is its own story for me. And so he's smitten, and then you do meet Mike at this point, because he's killing sheep with a air gun, whatever we call it, a bolt gun.
Yes.
You get the impression that the person who's his foreman is his uncle or his guardian because his parents are dead.
Yes.
And so that's our 7 people they get to meet. And so the big one is Bill is still thinking that Georgie might be alive.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
he may have been swept into the Barrens, and he's set up this entire rig in his garage, like a model of the Barrens, and that he thinks that he could have been swept away into it. His father finds out, gets very angry, says, like, because his father's trying to move on, and as you understand, gets very angry that his son isn't, because it's just hurting everybody, and because he doesn't get that Bill feels extra guilty.
Yes,
because Bill was the last one to see him alive. Bill was sick and couldn't go with him. If he feels if he wasn't sick, then Georgie would still be alive, and that's a hell of a thing for a kid to carry.
Yes,
as far as go. And then at this point, they all have an encounter with Pennywise in some form or another individually. Yes. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And so for somebody like Stan, he's Jewish and he's about to go through his bar mitzvah. The bar mitzvah. Yeah. So he has to read from the Torah, and he's preparing for that. His father's the local rabbi. That's the word. And he puts the book back into his father's study, which is really dark, and there's a nun painting a really scary nun in his dad's study. Yeah. She comes to life and scares him.
Yeah, that's right. I've forgotten that whole sequence.
Yeah. That was like one of the first, and it is the one you forget because I have to do this 7 times to scare each individual kid.
Yes.
And so by the time I got back to Stan, because there's a bit later in the film where they all compare notes, and you forgot Stan. Oh yeah, he got scared by none. What were some of the others?
We had with Beverly was the blood spewing out of the sink. With
yes. So Beverly's dad is creepy as fuck and is basically sexually abusing her effectively, which I don't think that was in the original book. Is that right?
No, it was more physical. No, yeah, it was hinted that he was physically abusing her. Yes.
Oh, okay, right, yeah,
yeah, definitely. Because that's why when she marries again later on, she marries
an abuser.
Abuses her. Yeah. Yes, no, it was definitely insinuated that.
Him. And the best one for me was Ben Fatty Bumba. He's in the library. And he won't, because that's how because he spends time in the library, and the woman says you should be out playing with your friends. He's got no friends, and he reads a book about dairy because he's fascinated by dairy, and he reads about an explosion back in the 1800s or early 1900s that killed a bunch of kids.
Yeah,
a gas explosion, and a red balloon floats through the library. He follows it. There's a really, really nice shot before that as he's reading in the book. You see over his shoulder a woman in the background out of focus turn around. Yes. Stands eerily still and smiles. Yes, and it's so out of focus you can't see her face, but it's really nice.
I love that bit.
That was a good shot. That was a good shot. And again, he gets scared, and he runs out of the library, and that's when he runs into the bullies.
Yes,
who decide to literally beat him up on the side of a bridge.
Yeah.
This car goes past full of an old lady and a man, and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Because kids, boys will be boys. And then, and the bully, Henry Bowers, cuts him.
Yeah.
With an H in his stomach, which is pretty full on.
Yeah. That was in the book too, and I was actually really glad they kept that in that, because in the miniseries they obviously didn't do that. But I was really glad they did in that, because it's quite an important moment for Ben, and I like the way they did it because he fights back every time. So. Yeah, and he's able to break free and kind of obviously, and then that's when he meets up with the others for the first time. But the other one was the leper character, which Eddie.
For Eddie, yes, that's right. Yeah. And Eddie's not a hypochondriac. He's Munchausen and Hypoxia. His mum is keeping him ill. He's not ill.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So he's. And so everything's like that. So anything like with disease-ridden kind of stuff is what is in his psyche, which was good.
Yes.
And
what was Richie's? What was Richie's one? I can't remember now.
See, I thought Richie's was the big statue thing, but that's
in the second film.
That's in the second film. Yeah, because that's when I was watching the second one. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm glad they did that, because I remember that being in the book.
Right, okay.
But I was. I kind of was like, who was, I can't remember. Like, there is a headless undead kid. Was that him, or was that someone else?
The Betty Rippon was the one who, there's some girl that disappeared in between Georgie dying and filming, and that's what, because kids disappear.
Yeah, I can't remember. Like I said, I'm going off this from trying to remember from 2 years ago now, so.
Yeah. Mike Hanlon has this nightmare vision of people burning in this.
His parents died in a fire, and he was the only.
His parents died in a fire, and so that's his running. So they basically, So Bill takes his 3 initial mates, which is Richie, Eddie, and Stan, to try and look for Georgie in this big fuck-off drain pipe.
Yeah.
And that's when Bill comes running in, cut to pieces.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit, he's in trouble. We better take him to the pharmacy. They take him off.
Yeah.
The Bowers gang look for him, and one of them, the guy looks a lot like the Darth Vader type character in the new Star Wars film.
Oh yeah. The Adam Driver guy. Yeah.
Adam Driver guy. Yeah. The guy looks like Adam Driver, comes in, and I see your tits, and his big thing is he likes setting things on fire with an aerosol can.
Yep.
And he goes into the drains and he gets killed. He gets killed anyways. So he disappears. And meanwhile, the boys are in a pharmacy, which is Eddie's domain. Eddie's an expert.
Yes.
he knows what medication or bandages and swabs
Yeah.
Ben needs, but they don't have money, and that's when they find Beverly. This is a really well done scene. She's staring at a wall of tampons because it's
yeah.
She's now, she knows that she needs it. She doesn't have a mother figure, so she doesn't know what to get.
Yes.
The bully that threw all that shit on her, she works there because it's her father who owns the pharmacy.
Yes.
And so the world's colliding at this point. She sees the boys, and she just decides to help them.
Yeah.
Distract the guy at the counter, the pharmacist, who's a bit of a creep.
Yes.
Whilst the boys literally just shoplift all their bandages that they need.
Yes.
And she ends up stealing the guy's cigarettes.
Yes.
And then and so they're in the back, bandaging this kid up, and they see her, and she's like, "Oh, it's all fine. She's got a pack of cigarettes, so debt paid." And so that's the boys' first meeting the girl.
Yeah.
And meeting basically Ben. So boom, and then what happens after that?
They do meet Mike. Because
Mike.
They form.
Well, actually, that's it. They basically the next day they're at this big water hole.
Yeah,
and the four of them are there. The five of them are there now. The five boys.
Yes.
Ben's got a big bandage on his where he's been cut, and you think, don't go in the water with that, dude. That's just going to get infected. But it's the 80s, so you know. Yeah. And then Beverly's there, and she's joined the group. And she jumps in, and they all jump in, and they all become friends, and they have this nice moment, weird moment where there's all boys group. There's a girl amongst them, so they're not sure how to react.
Yeah.
And then they go. Then they go back to Ben's house, Ben's room, and he tells them how there's just weird things happening in Derry.
It's Bill's room.
Bill's.
You're getting Bill and Ben muddled up at the moment.
The power plot, Ben.
Yeah.
They do meet Mike. Mike gets again the bowels going. Literally kicking the shit out of him in the bowels. And they come in, and she throws a rock. Beverly throws a rock, hits Henry Bowers.
Yes.
And they kicks off a rock fight.
Yeah.
Because Henry Bowers calls her a slut effectively, which pisses off Ben, who throws a rock.
Yes.
Kicks off a rock fight, and they actually win. The Ben's bullies. Henry Bowers is going to take off by himself.
Yeah.
And then he's left to be humiliated. And that's when the seven of them are effectively together, and they're friends. And that's when they talk about Derry. They talk about how great shit happens. They have a higher murder rate, disappearance rate than any other place in the United States.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody comes. I don't know whether it's at that point, but somebody. I'm pretty sure it's Mike, because in the book it's Mike. But somebody comes up about how it's every 27 years. This stuff.
Yeah, I think it's Ben's research. He says it's every 27 years.
Oh, it's Ben that does it. Yeah, that's how they do it. Because in the book it's Mike, and in the book they do Ben. Yeah. Yeah.
And they compare stories, and they realise they've been stalked by the same entity, which they refer to as it. And that's why. Yeah, and then they go back to Bill's garage. Yes.
And they had that with the cine film playing.
Yeah, it was, and the carousel, and they're going through photos. Yeah. And this carousel comes to life, and they see a photo of Bill's mum, who's got red hair, in a picture where she's got her hair's been blown over.
Yes.
It's windy. And then it starts moving like a film, and then the red hair covers the fact that it's actually Pennywise. He literally comes out of the wall.
Yes.
Scares the living shit out of the kids. And I think it's Ben who ends up figuring it out by opening the door, letting light come in, and Beverly goes and hugs Bill.
Yes.
Because she's developing feelings for him. Yeah.
And that's the whole triangle that happens throughout the whole story is between Beverly liking Bill and Ben liking Beverly. Yeah.
Ben. Because at some point Ben gives her a postcard where the hair is winter fire. So it sends her a love note.
That's right.
Which she thinks is from Bill.
Yes.
So the seven of them have basically become mates.
So I think the next section is where so they've kind of put these clues together that this entity kind of comes every 27 years, and that they narrow down on the fact that it's potentially this kind of house is because they're looking at. I think it's Ben that comes up with the sewer lines and thinks this is how it moves around. and they work out that this abandoned house is potentially a way in or out that Pennywise may use. So they decide to try and confront it by going to the house and going inside to try and kill it. And this is, as I said, this sequence I really liked because partly because Pennywise uses it to separate them, and then and then he can, because he can't. The thing is, as a group, they're a strong group, like energy wise, and so he knows that he needs to splinter them in order to have a better chance of attacking them. So, and he does it, and you know, with a very kind of ghost house kind of some, you know, what was it, haunted house kind of, you know, when you go to the amusement parks and there's lots of sliding doors and contraptions and stuff. It's got that.
You mean like Netherworld?
Netherworld.
Hey, that should give us. They should actually sponsor this podcast.
They should, huh? Yeah.
So much publicity amongst people who live in a country who might be able to fly over to go over there.
Netherworld. Yeah. So yeah, just like that. So it had that kind of, you know, look and feel to it, and it does it really successfully and in a really kind of scary and confronting way. And I liked it. I thought it was really cool.
There's bits where the Richie and Bill get separated, and they find a door that says scary, kind of scary, not scary at all. Yeah, 3 doors they're going to choose. Yeah. There's a bit the big bit is that's when Pennywise comes out of a fridge, spins his head, and his body comes out. It looks a really cool effect. It looks cool because it felt like it was in camera. It didn't look CGI to me. Yes, that's why it worked so well. Yeah, it ends up with Eddie falling through the floor, breaking his arm. Yes, which is, of all the 7 kids, it's probably the worst one for him to get a bad injury because of the repercussions that would happen if they make it out alive. Yes. And there's a bit where Pennywise grabs him and is about, and Eddie's screaming and crying, and Pennywise is about to bite his hand, but pretending, am I going to bite it? I'm going to bite it. That's the first scene he did. That's the first scene he did with any of the kids. Oh, really? And he was like, Skarsgård was like, okay, going, and the kid was just wailing. And the second the director said cut, the kid goes to Pennywise, that's brilliant. That was so good. You got to do that again. Do more of that. And apparently Skarsgård looked at the kid and said, shit, I'm going to be working for this kid at some point. Because he honestly was like, gee, am I doing it? Am I pushing it too hard? Yeah. Really, but the kid was like, this is great. I love it. So awesome. Nice. So, yeah. And the end of that scene ends up with Beverly smashing a iron fence paling through his head. Yes. And that, for some reason, seems to stop him in his tracks. Yes. And he retreats. And they all come rushing out, and Eddie with a broken arm, which obviously does not go down well with his super overprotective mum. Yep. And that effectively breaks the group because the mum takes him away. It vanishes, yeah. Vanishes him. Richie loses at this point because he's like, with the classic line, because Beverly and Bill are the ones that think they have to stay together and fight it, where the other kids have had enough, understandably. Richie comes up with a great line, who invited Molly Ringwald into the group. Which is, I remember it smacked to me, that particular line and that particular energy of that scene smacked to me a little bit of Chasing Amy, where Ben Affleck's best friend character, played by the guy from My Name is Earl, really resents Amy, and then it's played up as a reason why he's actually secretly in love with Ben Affleck's character. Yes, because he's secretly gay. Which I mean, not all boys used to get jealous of a girl joining the group. It feels that way, but in this particular case, with Richie, it's later revealed that he is gay. Yeah. Which we should talk about that later on because I don't think that's in the book. No, I don't think it is. No. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, the group splinters and they spend a month apart or something like that. And what brings them back is Beverly. She has another really intense scene with her dad. Yes, that's right. At home, she has enough. She kicks him in the nuts. And then she ends up running from him. He chases her into the bathroom. She hides behind a shower curtain and knocks him out with the cistern lid. Yeah. And as she does that, that's when Pennywise leaps out and grabs her. Yes. And kidnaps her. Yes. And then Bill finds out about this and then literally tells the rest of the group Pennywise has got her. Yeah. We got to go. And so they do. They go back into the house. armed. I mean, Mike's armed with his bolt gun.
Yes.
And they've got ropes and whatever, and they rappel down into the well that leads them down into the sewers. Mike's the one who's left on top. He's attacked by Henry Bowers.
Yes.
And Mike ends up kicking him down the well, which there's no way in hell he can survive. And I remember thinking, hang on, doesn't Henry Bowers come back as an adult? So
that's right. It killed me that.
Yeah, so Mike comes on down, and then so it's the 5 boys now, 6 boys, sorry.
Yeah.
They get separated. Stan gets attacked by the nun, and there's really
this is it. So all the stuff comes back out again. Yeah.
Yeah, and she latches around his face with like a big snake tongue with spikes on it, and they kind of turn around and go, "Oh shit, Stan!" And they rescue him, and Stan screams, "You left me alone! You left me alone!" And you do get the sense, knowing what happens later on, that Stan's the weakest of the 7.
Yes.
That was probably the moment that broke him, I feel.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That's the moment that haunts him in his dreams as an adult.
Yes.
That's why he can't face it again.
Yeah.
And so the rest of them go into this big bottom. There's like a bottom of a big air shaft or whatever.
Yeah.
And you see the kids all floating, literally floating above in the air.
Yeah, I like this bit. I think it's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that to me,
it worked within the story. I mean, yeah.
I mean, in the original miniseries, you didn't see anybody float, did you?
No.
I can't remember.
No.
And so you do see kids float, and that makes sense of the fact that we all float down here. Or time to float. And Beverly's floating because she's seen the dead lights. Because she there's a scene where she wakes up and there, Pennywise comes out, does this dancing bit. And then she says the one thing, she's, "I'm not afraid of you."
Yeah. And
that's the key to beating him. But she says it more out of like, just a nervous, defiant fuck you before she goes dying. But it's the right phrase to say. Yeah. So he knocks her out by showing her the deadlights. So she ends up being like a zombie floating in the air. Yeah. The boys find her. And they bring her down. And they all have sex with her. No, they don't do that.
Quick, she's catatonic.
Ben kisses her, so it's a very Snow White version of what happens in the book.
Yes,
and she thinks it's Bill.
Yes,
but and so all 7 kids are now on their feet, united.
Yes,
have a big climactic fight scene with Pennywise.
Yeah,
and they kick the shit out of it in the end. There's a nice scene where he comes as Georgie, and Bill realizes he isn't Georgie, shoots a bolt through his head and kills him. He lays dead. So half a second you're thinking, has he killed Georgie? Bill seems unwaver, going, no, he's not. And then of course he comes to life as Pennywise. Yeah. A big fight ensues. There's a nice scene where Pennywise gets the upper hand, has Bill hostage, tells the others if they let him keep Bill, they can all go. Yeah. Richie, who's been the most over the entire group, says this nice line where, because of you, Bill, I'm now going to have to kill a fucking clown. Yes. And then they all attack. And they beat him. They beat him by being strong and united together. He retreats back, dying down a hole, and he crumbles to pieces. He says the word fear, and he crumbles to pieces. And you think, oh, he's dead. He's gone. That's it. And the Losers Club go topside again. Yep. I mean, all the bodies come floating down. So, again, it makes me think, how the hell did these 7 kids explain the shit ton of kids' bodies that they found in a sewer? What did they tell the cops? What the hell?
I don't know. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah. And then, the 7 kids make a vow that if it comes back in 27 years, they come back in 27 years and fight it. And
they did the whole blood oath thing, don't they, at the end?
Blood oath thing. Cut themselves with a Coke bottle.
Yep.
Again, it's still, I mean, it's the 80s, so the AIDS thing was out, so,
Yeah.
And they all leave one by one. They leave in the order of Stan first, followed by Eddie, followed by the others. Yeah. And Beverly kisses Bill, and that's it. Yeah, there's no allusion to the future. No. There's an allusion. I think they don't even allude to Pennywise still being alive, or am I thinking the director's cut? I don't know.
No,
but that's how it ends.
Yeah. That's kind of how it is. Yeah, and it ends on that note. But obviously, there's a point just as Ben's leaving. He's like the third last year to go, and he can see that this thing's brewing between Beverly and Bill, and there's that kind of pained expression on his face as he walks away, and realizing that he may never get the opportunity to woo her, and for her to realize his true feelings. Interestingly, though, just going back as well, like the order you said they start panning out and going out from, obviously Stan was the first, and then Eddie. That's a big kind of hint to what comes later on in the second part, and deliberately played so. And I even felt like the bit where Eddie is attacked in the house scene earlier on, and he's the one that gets injured, is also a hint of what's to come as well. So there's lots of like little things that are laid down that are a little bit subliminal, but it makes more sense when we get to the second part. Having said that, so we come to the end of this movie now, and as we now know that the second part was coming. They always envisioned it to have a second part, but obviously it had to rest on the success of this.
Yes.
For it to be able to do so, and I think that's why it is kind of alluded that Pennywise may have been defeated, because if it tanks, then they've obviously got like a
clean ending,
right? But yeah, as it is, so we're now kind of watching this and reviewing it, knowing that we've watched the second one too, so it kind of cements things as a story is concerned. But if we can subject ourselves back to when we finished watching this one, how do you feel like the film was a complete film at the time? Did you feel like it was? I mean, I know we said our reaction to it was a little bit underwhelming, but how do you view things now, two years down the track with this film?
Yeah, look, I have a number of films that I just play and I do work around the house.
Yeah.
And it has to be a particular kind of film, and sometimes it's an episode of Big Bang Theory, and sometimes it's Close Encounters is my favorite one.
Yes,
because I know that off by heart just by the audio track now.
Yeah, and
it was one of them as well. It was one of those films where this is going to sound bad. I enjoyed it as wallpaper. But and that's me actually complimenting it. It's not, and which is a weird way to compliment a film. But I felt comfortable with it. It's really, and I don't know why to say it. So I guess maybe from that point of view, it is insulting because I haven't. But I like it. I enjoy it. I really do. I think the kids are great. I mean, like everything I said about Pennywise, he's still a visual masterpiece to watch.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And he'd be a fun role to play for an actor.
Yeah.
I could see Richard, he would. If he was in the vicinity and they were casting for Pennywise, he would have put his hand up and he would have worked really hard to see if he could get that role. And I could see that. So I enjoyed it. It helped me understand the book a lot better, and I understand why you guys loved the book a lot better.
Yeah.
Because it was about these kids, and they cast these kids really well.
Yeah, yeah.
And their bonding and their growing up, reminded me of my childhood friends. We never went through life and death together with a scary clown. But the energy and the dynamic you have in the group was very similar. When girls start to become part of your male group, that just changes things. It does, and that resonated with me, and I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Yes, I agree.
And just growing up, just growing pains, bullies, all of it. And there's an adventure element to it because you wish your social group, as when you're young, would go on an adventure.
Yeah, yeah.
And because how they react to it is, that's how so and so would react. That's how I would react, and so I enjoyed it as a self-contained film. If I didn't know anything about it, I would have accepted. Okay, that's the film. Yes. The cynical part of me would have gone, I bet you they'll make a sequel. And they did. Overall, it's a good film. It's not scary. It's not horror.
No, it's not. I know. To me, it was a great. As I said, it was a great coming of age drama. I think the kids were probably arguably better than in the miniseries this time around, and I thought the connection really worked. The energy between them was awesome. They were fantastic performances, and I should probably kind of list them by name because I didn't do that at the beginning. But we had Jaden Lieber as Bill. We had Jeremy Ray Taylor as Ben, Sophia Lillis as Beverly, Finn Wolfhard as Richie, which obviously people know from Stranger Things. We had Wyatt Olaf as Stanley, and chosen Jacobs as Mike, and rounding out the trio, there's 7 would be Jack Dylan Grazer as Eddie. He was brilliant at the performance as Eddie, I have to admit. Really, really good. It was like it felt and like, you know, much like how Stand By Me is a great coming of age story, also written by Stephen King, but made into an awesome film. And part of that was the connection the kids had, and it still stands strong to me today. That movie, I felt like this one tapped into a very, really similar energy with the kids, and did it in a really, really awesome way.
Yes.
And that was my take. That was my take on that. So, like, but as I say, like, to echo what you said, sorry, the scare factor wasn't there, and that's no disrespect to Bill Skarsgård's performance. I liked his performance, but it just didn't tap into the psyche as much as I was hoping it would. Yeah,
I think that's where you probably would make it scary.
Yeah,
is fun, but it's a visually stunning film. It's a special effects film. It's a science fiction horror film with emphasis on sci-fi, I guess you could say. and a good coming age drama, which I did kind of like that they didn't cheat that. They didn't treat. They gave the 7 characters their due airtime. They didn't make it more. Oh, I could see, like, a Hollywood exec will go, we need to make this under 2 hours to get the screen time. So focus mostly on the love triangle. Don't worry about the other 4. They obviously made it has to be all 4 of them going through their individual stories. They didn't say, "Oh, can you make it about 5?" Because and you could see how a zealous stereotype Hollywood exec wouldn't have that much of a leg to stand on, because it's a Stephen King novel.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
If this was a Hollywood script pitched by a young screenwriter, that's what the feedback would be: is that don't make it about 7, make it about 4 or 5 kids, or just focus on the 3 kids. But it's like Lord of the Rings. It's like one of the reasons why Lord of the Rings as a film trilogy worked is that Peter Jackson was loyal as he could be to the books.
Yeah,
it's in the books. Yeah. So we're not going to make these American characters. There are going to be 9 walkers. There's going to be 9 Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah. No, Danny DeVito is not going to play Bilbo Baggins. It's going to be a British actor, because that's just the way it is. And because it's a loved book, that's what you stand on. You can't violate the book.
Yeah.
And I do like that. I was like, oh, cool. That's why. But part of me, because I didn't know these characters as well as you. I was like, who's Bill? Who's Jeff? Who's fucking Mike? I don't know. And that's what I was thinking. Oh, it's a Netflix series. This would have been good. I would have had time to.
Yeah. I really fleshed out those moments as well. It would have been a good point made. And who knows, another 27 years down the track, somebody may do something like that to kind of resurrect Pennywise once again. But as it stands, that's the material we've got. It'll be interesting to see when we do come around to doing the vote for 2019 this year, whether part 2 makes the grade or not. But that's to be said and done. Much like this podcast is on our best horror movie for 2017. Thanks for listening to us ramble on our take of that. And please stick around for 2018 when we post the votes out across our social platforms when that comes around as well. Until then, I'm your host for this series, Saul Muerte, and I was joined by Auntie Big Gigi. Goodbye.
See you, bye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.